I'm from the 21st century. My name is Danny Dial-Up.
Danny Dial-Up?
My name is Danny Dial-Up. Listen to me.
I'm listening.
You mustn't let the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl in the year 2022. Hold on, I gotta answer this.
It was the cat trying to leave and he stopped.
You mean cats aren't extinct?
No, we still have cats. And you know what? It's 2023 now.
What?
So I actually can't stop anything that happened in 2022.
I meant the 2023 Super Bowl.
Oh.
I cannot remember who won the Super Bowl in 2022.
3 Super Bowl already happened also.
Fucking cat. I mean, this fucking cat. Come here.
I also don't know who won the Super Bowl from 2023. I just know that Rihanna performed, but also didn't watch that. So
if Rihanna performs at the halftime show at the 2023 Super Bowl, the world will end within a year.
Okay, well then we're doomed, dude, because it already happened. That's what I'm telling you. But like we lived through like a global pandemic recently, and
pandemic?
Yeah. It was a pandemic of global proportions.
Listen,
as is a pandemic.
In the year 2023, my brain will be able to hold 90 gigabytes.
90?
Yes.
That's not very much.
Yes. 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 Why does it smell weird in here?
Oh, you wear necklaces when you take a shit?
Don't you?
Now, I guess I do.
Don't you?
Yeah, so you missed this. There was this guy in here.
Yeah.
And he was
What's
talking
his name?
about Danny Dial-Up. I think is what he said, but I think he was probably high. And he was talking about like we needed to stop the Super Bowl in 2022 and then 2023, and I told him it already happened, and he said that if Rihanna performed at the Super Bowl in 2023, the world was going to end, but
that already
happened, so we're going to die in a year. What do you want to do?
And he's from 2021?
I don't remember him saying when he was from. He seemed kind of like a hippie. He was wearing glasses that looked like my grandma's.
I wasn't here when you were talking to him, but I'm pretty sure he said
had the same shirt on as you.
He's from the year 2021. I'm pretty sure he said that.
Did you borrow his necklace?
No. Might be maybe a relative from another time.
I mean, maybe. He looked a lot like you.
And he sounded like he was really funny.
I didn't really laugh much past the intro.
It's weird that he was from 2021 because this movie, this is our movie roulette.
Yeah. Roulette.
We went through, you picked a category out of a hat.
I did.
We took the number of movies that were, let me pick my nose, that were on the list of that category. We randomly generated the number and we selected
Johnny Mnemonic.
Johnny Mnemonic, directed by, as it says on the scroll.
Is it spelled correctly this time?
There's always a typo on the scroll. By the way, we were talking about the Mad God, and we kept calling Phil Tippett Paul.
Yeah, we sure did.
And I clarified in the notes that he is not a Paul, he is a Phil. But we called him Paul like the whole time.
Yeah, we did. And I honestly was following your lead because I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just blame you. I'm going to say that I'm innocent in this.
And once upon learning his work, we're very aware of his work.
Yeah, and I want to see more.
But now we know.
I guess I already have.
But we've seen
We've seen a lot of his work. I just didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're all learning. What is this, a Criterion essay? It's a fucking corny YouTube channel talking about movies. Huh?
And listen, you want to talk about corny movies?
Huh? Yeah. Go ahead.
This is one. Is what
yeah, this will probably get our lowest review yet, I'm sure. This is based on a story by William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer. He's kind of credited with popularizing the cyberpunk kind of style, the steampunky kind of stuff.
I would say the concept is not bad.
No.
At all. I think it could be neat to read a book about this. But the execution of this movie felt very silly at times. And obviously it was made in the 90s, about now. I can't put I don't know how to say how funny it was.
But this is a scenario where you watch something based upon a story, and a lot of times you can be like, well, the book's better.
Sure.
And like maybe even in this case it is. But the guy who wrote the book wrote the screenplay to this movie.
Okay, but also I wouldn't even, there are moments in the screenplay that are bonkers for sure. But again,
character choices.
Visually, that's what's funny.
Yeah.
To me, I even think the script is not like terrible. I think it's, you know what I mean?
I guess it's not like, yeah.
But like the acting, I mean, listen, we've talked about our love for Keanu Reeves. I love Keanu Reeves. But Keanu Reeves being very serious before he like recognized how to do that in a way that's is true. Keanu.
This was after Speed, I think.
Oh, really?
Speed popped off.
Speed was good. I loved Speed.
Speed popped off.
Can you check the years on that? Is this really after Speed?
All right. Well, hold on. Let me pull up these windows.
Well, you're spouting facts, and I don't.
I'm not spouting it. Well, I'm spouting the ones that I don't have to look up.
Except I don't know. I'm just very curious because I feel like this is before Speed.
All right, we're looking. Speed, 1994. Johnny Mnemonic, 1995. You know what the movie was after Johnny Mnemonic? Mnemonic?
A Walk in the Clouds.
You did it.
Woo!
Did you see it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just guessed because the timing was right. Because I know I still lived at home and my dad watched it a ton. And I graduated high school in 98, so I figured it had to be 96-ish.
He did My Own Private Idaho, a very well-regarded movie.
I've never seen that, and I need to see it.
91. Yeah,
you bought it for me.
I bought it for you.
You bought it for me.
Yeah.
We'll watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was wrong, but I will say that.
I'm sorry, you were what?
I can admit when I'm wrong.
You say that like I don't?
I didn't say that. I just said I can admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. But I will say that Speed and Walk in the Clouds, while they were set, A Walk in the Clouds in the past, Speed in current day, 90s, felt more modern, both of them, than this movie that was supposed to be set in the future.
We were talking earlier, and there's like this aesthetic of the future per specific time, right?
Yes.
Like I love the 50s, 60s when everyone was starting to get kind of UFO crazy, and you got the robots that have like claw hands, like Robbie the robot
very,
shit.
Like metallic.
Yeah, everyone has to have like pointed hats for some reason.
Yeah.
And things are like weirdly curved. Like imagine a rocket in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Totally.
Like that aesthetic is very humorous to me because it's a vision of what they thought the future was going to be.
The 80s too. I love the 80s vision of the future. I just watched the Apple for the first time. This is essentially it,
right?
Well, it's different because I feel like in the 80s they were still like the future was more of it was more like everybody was wearing metallic colors and crazy eyeshadow, and there was some of that in this, but there wasn't like the internetness of the future. Like at a point in the 90s, everything was about like what is going to be the future of the internet, like hackers. was real crazy.
I kind of lump the 80s and the early 90s in together. I feel like what you're talking about with the Apple or like a Xanadu or some bullshit.
That feels very different
where
to me
where
than
it's all
this.
about the fab, the like some glam aspect of the future. That feels 70s to me.
Okay, true. Maybe that, yeah, because it was early 80s. So I love more the you're right, Flash Gordon, the 70s, early 80s. That's actually my probably favorite future.
But the Gibson books
fair.
popped off in the 80s. And then we spent the next 90 and he's writing well. I mean, he's still writing books apparently.
And it's like Terminator time too, right?
Shit like that. Like we're starting to look, the Reagan era is lending itself to us looking more into apocalyptic visions or like weird societies where technology is covering everything. And, but you know, so when you really think about it, that 80s, early 90s, the Gibson vision that so many movies from that time co-opt, like it does seem like it's like half right.
Yeah.
And but there's just certain details and like where it's like where technology really has come along.
Can we jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is just making me think of the part where Johnny Mnemonic is someone Mnemonic. I was trying to spell his name and like there is a word mnemonic. That is not how you spell his name, which is infuriating. So there's these people who can carry info in their brains, and he's carrying this info in his brain, and he's running. And we can get more into that bit, but there's this part where he's like, I need a computer. And this woman that's helping him, that is like his hired bodyguard, because they ran into each other, takes him to a computer store. And he sits down and he just like starts barking all these things to her. Like, I need, what was it? I need data gloves, and I need iPhones.
Yeah.
And I need... Oh, it was like when a Tyson iPhone or something?
That is the scene, too.
Yeah.
When he's like, I must find a computer.
Yeah, computer. But here's the thing that's so crazy is she's someone who, and I had forgotten about this. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. She didn't know about people who carry data in their brains.
Who is she?
She is, I can't remember her name.
I know we weren't going to go beat by beat, but you went like way crazy.
I did because I wanted to talk about the computer.
We still have to set up the characters here.
Set up the characters. Okay, so Johnny Mnemonic is a man who at some point in his life decided that he wanted to work as someone who carries data in their brain.
For
and so
whatever
what you
fucking
have to
reason.
do, money. I mean, what other reason is there? But in order to do that, you have to give up part of your memories. So they do a thing where they call it like a wet port, which is disgusting. A wet wire, something like that.
Because it goes into your head.
It just sounds grody, but like they do this thing where they go into your brain and they take out part of your memories and they stick like a port in there so that you can essentially plug into your own head and download data into your own brain that you then hold until, and you don't know what it is. You can't get it out. There's like a passcode. And it's images that you have to see. And if you see those images, you can download the data later. And so Johnny doesn't want to do this work anymore. He says, I don't want to hold other people's memories anymore. I want my memories back.
Is it supposed to be safer than just having an external hard drive? Is that the whole point of putting it in someone's head?
Okay, I was thinking about this. So I don't know how it would be safer. You'd almost say it was like more undetectable. I don't know. Like they can't steal a thing from you. They have to like kill a person. And if they kill you, the data's gone. So like there's this whole thing where the people want to get the data from him. He ends up like downloading too much data into his brain, and he needs to get someone to get it out.
Because doing too much does the neuro bleed and it will kill him. Do you remember how many gigs in 2021 that his brain could hold?
Yes. So he had 90 gigs, and then he did this thing called a doubler that made him be able to do
80
180.
gigs. He could hold 80 gigs.
Okay, then 80, and then he got to hold 60.
And he doubled his limit is 80.
Yeah, and he doubled it so he could then hold 160, but they wanted him to hold 320. So they wanted him to go like double of what his doubler would allow.
So in 2021, his brain can hold 160 gigs.
if he basically uses a temporary hard drive in addition to his brain.
Pretty sure I bought this in 2020.
Uh-huh.
This is 2 terabytes. For like $100, around $100.
Yeah, and so they were basically... I think the whole deal is, right, like, it's in a person who then is going to travel. He has to get on a plane at some point, and they do, like, a body scan of him, and they read that he has the port. But they don't say... They basically are like... They call it something else. Like, it says it's something medical. So I think the idea is that you could, like, travel and cross borders, but you don't have a physical thing that could be inspected or taken from you. And you're, like, registered as someone who has, like, a medical necessity to have a thing in your brain. Like, I think you're, like... a secret spy, kind of, delivering
an info
data.
spy.
An info spy.
What do they call them?
But
data runners?
A courier. He's like a data courier. And so, okay, so the deal is, he wants to get out of it. His boss, or whoever gives him the jobs, is like, one more job, man, and then you'll have enough money, and you can do this surgery, and you'll get all your memories back. I'll help you do it. And so he goes on this one more thing, but like we said, he needs to carry more data than he can carry. But because he really wants to do this job and get out of it, he takes all this extra data. And like you said, it can cause a brain bleed. And so as soon as he takes on this data, he's dying.
Yeah, and he starts having these spells and headaches. And then he gets lost into the underworld because the guy betrays him. And so the rest of the movie is Johnny. He doesn't know his own last name. He doesn't have his old memories because he took the job as a courier.
His name is Johnny.
So he's just traipsing through the underworld since the dude who hired him double-crossed him.
Yeah.
So now he's trying to... And there's also the Yakuza are following him, especially this one particular guy.
Which is hilarious.
And then that's when he meets his bodyguard, some girl who's supposed to be off the grid.
Yeah.
And she's judged for having, like, like... back alley mods or whatever the fuck.
To make her stronger.
Yeah.
Oh, but also... there is a pandemic happening in this movie called the Black Shakes. And she has it. We find out later because it doesn't have anything to do with her mods.
When she starts to do the shakes.
Get down here, man! She's sick!
That shit was so funny.
It didn't look like a seizure. It was like very jerky.
It was,
like, it was
so...
like this. It was like...
She's like, ugh!
Like, it was crazy. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is maybe I'm wrong about the port thing. Like, maybe people knew because I do seem to recall when he got that scan, the machine actually said to him, there is a leak and you have 24 hours before you die, basically. It gave him like a time limit that then didn't seem to be stuck to.
Well, I mean... That's kind of 24 hours from that moment. It was a long day.
It was a long day.
I don't think we saw the sunrise, right?
Maybe not.
At least we didn't see that.
I don't know. I think we went underground at some point. Oh, so also in this, so like you said, the whole thing is just get the data out of his brain before the Yakuza catch him and kill him. Because they're trying to cut off his head to preserve the data. And so that's the other thing too, like, you have to kill someone to get the data. No. You have to get the data out of the person before they die or the data's lost forever. But they just wanted to, like, cut off his head to preserve the data and get it out somehow later. Don't understand how that would have worked. But we find out through, like, a crazy amount of talking that what is in his head is the cure for the Black Shakes.
Oh, of course.
And so...
that a pharmaceutical company wanted to get a hold of.
Yes.
Before anyone else.
Well, it was hiding.
Hiding it, yes.
So what it was the pharmaceutical company had it for a long time. There's also this weird woman in the computer, or she shows up in screens.
She's the lady from the Cocteau Twins in the Heaven or Las Vegas video.
Yes. You showed me that, and it's so true. I hope you flashed that image up.
No, I'm not. Since you asked, I'm not going to.
Oh, okay, fair. Y'all just go watch it.
Don't ever tell me to flash.
Also, I wouldn't know how to spell that, so.
The Cocteau Twins, Coctau.
Cool.
Teau.
But this woman is like a woman who founded this company who passed away years ago, but she keeps like talking to people about the data. Like, we got to get the data out. We got to help people. It's trying to be purchased by this man who's working with the Yakuza.
Yakuza.
I'm so sorry. Yakuza.
Well,
I know.
well,
Don't
shut
come
up.
for me. I'm so sorry. All respect. So Yakuza.
We love the Yakuza.
Ah, you did it.
We love the Yakuza.
Anyway, we find out too that like the reason he wants this is, I guess, because his daughter had the black shakes and she died.
Yeah.
So I guess he's been trying to get this maybe for like a long time, but she passed away before he could get it. Or something. I don't know.
There was, like I said, these kind
The
of
stakes were weird.
These kind of cyber predictions, they're half right.
Yeah.
We do have Gibson did predict a future where corporations would control everything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was like that when he wrote Neuromancer. But in
Just
like the
worse
80s,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just fucking worse.
Yeah.
Like the mask is off. No one's even pretending to have any
I think
decorum.
that's the difference, yeah.
The decorum's just out the window. Like, don't even bother.
Yeah.
A pandemic has hit the world that's affecting millions and millions of people. And Outcast predicted that people would get this and shake it like a Polaroid picture.
There is an interesting comparison of like people who have it it's like shameful, which that was with COVID too. Like it felt, especially, I think it's more normalized now because almost everyone we know has had it by this point. But there was a point at which like people sometimes wouldn't tell anyone they had COVID until they were completely better because they didn't want like the shame or the embarrassment of like
I told everyone
saying they had. Well, so did I, because like it wasn't my fault I got COVID. I just trying to live my fucking life, and you know,
people were probably
one of the most giant music festivals in the entire world, and I didn't think I was. No, I'm
I think. Look,
I don't think I got it there.
when it came to COVID hitting everything, and it's still technically happening.
Yes.
But the reality is like if it's a test run for something worse, then it's failure from the very top to the very bottom.
Absolutely.
So the real shame for people and not wanting to talk about it or do any or like try to be secretive about it, I think a lot of it is because they couldn't just be like, I don't care. So they had to be quiet about it. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to save face in the sense to where, because if you got it, maybe it meant you weren't careful. And for a lot of people, they weren't.
Yeah.
Like the
people
reality.
who were careful, you didn't want to be lumped in with the people who were bar hopping at the height of a pandemic. Just because maybe you went to Kroger and someone coughed near you.
So that's like the judgment that everyone's avoiding, because they'll probably accuse you of not being safe. And they'll probably be right unless you work in the medical industry or you're a teacher or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that is the interesting thing about COVID. Like, you know, when it hit where we were older, it was, you know, we're an older couple. So I was like, yeah, let's just chill.
We're middle-aged.
But not quite. We're not there yet.
Well, then we're not old. Keep going.
Old? I said older.
I know, but that made it sound like
well,
weird.
the way I'm going in the sentence,
okay,
it would make sense.
Okay.
If I were in like 19, 20 years old at that age when COVID was popping off, I wouldn't have been safe. I wouldn't have changed my life 1 second. And I say that as someone who is older now and made it a point to be safe, was very safe, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I was even then doing everything in the safest, wisest way. I would have been out partying, COVID partying. I would have been the guy going to your house and like you'd be the roommate. It was like, is he not going to wear a mask, right? So in a way, I know I'm not saying it would have been right, but knowing who I was then, no, I wouldn't have given a shit. And some people might have paid for that, but that's the case.
Well, back to this movie.
Can we talk about COVID a little more?
No, please, no.
I don't think y'all haven't heard of COVID, right?
So
can you explain what COVID-19 is?
What I started to talk about before we had to backtrack and like kind of tell the story of this movie is that when part of the running, they go to this computer store.
I need a computer.
Yeah, he needs a computer. He also gets mad at her for letting him sleep at some point, but he literally, like, if you hit his head, it's like he starts hallucinating and he can't stand up straight.
You're not supposed to hit his head. It's very dangerous, and he gets punched in the face like 6
because
times.
he could, because of this, like, leaking, right? Like, he could just explode, I guess. Like, his brain could melt or something.
We should also point out that, some are better than others, but this was not an environment that encouraged everyone to be like, look, we gotta be the most top-notch actors in this. The acting was like a domino effect. Like, his acting was not good in this movie. And it was like an effect that made everyone else's acting also seem not very good.
Yeah, I mean, even Ice-T.
One of our finest thespians. Even he couldn't carry this movie.
This is what it feels like.
J-Bone?
J-Bone, he was the leader of this like kind of underground group who was like a resistance against these companies. They called themselves like low-techs.
Low-techs, that's it.
They're like what's that called? What do people always say? Whatever that word is that means you hate technology.
Oh, Luddite.
They're like Luddites.
They don't.
But
they don't.
It's
hate.
like old technology.
Well, they're not
television.
Luddites.
They're not.
Luddites.
You're right. They're not. But low tech.
They're low tech.
But not Luddites.
I think it's just like they're getting the tech that they can scrap together and afford.
Yeah. And so they do this thing where they try to scramble the movie feeds because it's very like 1984 Big Brother-y. Like every television everywhere is playing like whatever the companies want to play to you, and so they'll sometimes like hack in and do messages.
How do you prevent the black shakes?
They never said.
How does it spread?
I don't know, because obviously she had it, but it wasn't like when she started having a black shake attack, like Johnny wasn't like, oh my god, I gotta get away from you. He literally like picked her up. Like, I don't know.
Maybe like it can spread, but only when you're shaking. Like you can shake it onto people.
Well, she was shaking and he was holding her, and he's fine. So I don't know. But
remember when? Can we talk more about acting? The acting for a second.
Yeah, I still want to talk about the computer, but keep going.
We'll get there. Remember when I think we were talking about Chandler from Friends?
Yes.
And he wrote a book.
Yes.
And in the book, he was talking about how River Phoenix is dead, Chris Farley is dead, but Keanu Reeves still walks among us. And everyone was like, what the fuck, bro? Keanu's cool as shit. And current Keanu has a very different reputation than Keanu back then. Although, obviously, he was a successful movie star back then. Yeah,
and I'm sure he was always cool as shit. And that's probably why people wanted to work with him the whole time.
But it used to be the discussion around Keanu was that he was a very one-note actor.
Yeah.
Despite being in well-regarded movies like Point Break. Speed was actually a pretty well-regarded movie.
Or maybe it was huge.
Yeah, it was like a kind of a hot action movie. And people liked it. And, My Own Private Idaho and like stuff like that. But it's true. Like there was a lot of movies that were like this where it was just like, oh my God.
It was like every other movie. Cause like he's great in Bill and Ted. He's great in Parenthood. He worked for Speed because it was like a very like, there's certain characters that he works for, but there's certain times they try to shoehorn him into something.
I think even
it just doesn't work.
I think even in Speed, if you really get into that dialogue, it's been a while. Things will be a little silly.
Sure.
There was a way he delivered that came off very kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so he had this rep like Keanu. He's a hunky actor, but he's not a very good actor. And so Chandler Bing was mining that like cornball 90s talk show joke type of humor discussing Keanu Reeves. And he wasn't really on the up of the Keanu now who is better at kind of picking roles that he would be. I mean, just imagining like John Wick or something, the few of the more modern movies. And he does seem to be acting better in those than he does.
Absolutely.
In these movies.
It also seems like people know how to use him now. You know, like he knows, but people also know. Like something like John Wick feels like it was written for him. Like it's good.
Do you remember how good his acting was in Feeling Minnesota?
I never saw that.
I like the porn version of Feeling Minnesota. Feeling Minnesota's balls. Hey.
I thought you were going to say like Feeling Inside Minnesota.
That's pretty good.
Thanks. Better than yours.
I don't know about
Feeling
that.
Up Minnesota.
That's pretty good. I think Feeling Minnesota's balls, like it's got that good, not so subtle porno punch to it.
Feeling Minnesota's boobs.
It sounds like the Cinemax version.
Do you think boobs are sexier than balls?
Hold on, let me think about that a little more. Balls are pretty great. Not gonna lie, the way they dangle and are
Okay,
wrinkly.
well, we've talked about that book, the section of that book that Chandler Bing wrote so many times, and I'll just say what I always say. He's just fucking jealous.
I mean, he's very open about his addiction years, and apparently there's years he just doesn't remember. Hey, don't you dare cough while we're recording.
I have to cough. I don't have COVID. I don't think.
You got the black shakes.
Maybe.
Wait, you're having an attack? She's having an attack. Oh, God. Ugh.
Take me to Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
Take me to Henry Rollins.
That's right. We meet him. He brings her to Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
And he's a doctor.
And he's just Henry Rollins. Like, he's just being Henry Rollins. Just mad about everything.
Look, we love some Henry Rollins.
Totally love Henry
Rollins.
Rollins.
Acting doesn't level up here.
I can listen to Henry Rollins and have done.
And I think Henry Rollins would willingly admit that the acting did not level up on this.
Totally. Yeah. But, you know, Henry Rollins just like natural, like self-righteous sort of like anger.
Yeah.
At corporate greed.
It does
just like comes through. It works.
It does make sense that he would be. Henry Rollins kind of is a perfect character to inject in a cyberpunk, especially understanding like the kind of the punk influences.
Yeah.
Of that subgenre.
I actually think he was cast perfectly. It's not good, but in this world, it makes complete sense.
He couldn't have like a robot eye or something.
Well, he had nerd glasses. Just kidding. They were just almost like the ones you're wearing right now.
Yeah, they're like,
I
what are
love
you talking
them.
about?
But he had like the thick black glasses, and I feel like back then they would have thought that meant that you were like smart or nerdy.
I think in the Army, they give you
cool.
thick frames. They call them BCs.
Yeah.
Birth controls.
I like those.
I call them PGs. Pussy getters.
Okay.
So yeah, Henry Rollins.
He's a doctor.
Dolph Lundgren is in this movie.
Yes, well, so here's what happens. The Yakuza guy, Yakuza, is unable to get a hold of Johnny Mnemonic's data multiple times. Mnemonic. And so he calls his boss, and he's like, got away again. And the boss is like, forget it. And he calls Dolph Lundgren, and he's like, hey, Jesus, I got a job for you. This guy calls himself Jesus.
Yeah.
And apparently has slowly replaced his entire body. You talked for a second
with
about
implants.
With what?
Implants.
Implants.
I said it kind of weird.
Implants. Yeah, implants. So we do see at one point along the girl's arm, she's got these mods to make her like stronger. So I guess she can like punch harder. So he's essentially done that, but like throughout his entire body. Like he's replaced himself to make himself stronger and like indestructible.
So he's like a murdering zealot.
Yeah, he definitely thinks that he's going to like bring you to salvation by killing you, but it doesn't really matter why he's killing you. He's killing you for money.
Yeah, to get more parts, I guess. So he builds the computer and he's hacking into the mainframes.
Johnny builds the computer.
Yeah. Not Dolph Lundgren.
Before he ever meets Henry Rollins or anything, they're like on the way. And when he's got the computer built, which is the gloves and the eye thing, he's doing this thing on the internet, which we've seen this in multiple movies of like future internet, but he's like moving and swimming through the internet with his like gloves. And at one point he's like it would be like the equivalent of just typing in what you want and hitting enter, but he's like with his gloves doing he's unlocking a puzzle to get data.
But it seems like he's just flipping things that look exactly the same.
But it's like he's doing some kind of puzzle box.
But the corporation, the pharma corporation realizes he's trying to hack them.
Yeah.
So he does this thing where he's like he threatens them, and he's like, "I'll hack into your main." You see him in the VR goggles, and he's like threatening them by hacking them or something, and he's like holding his hands like, It's a pretty cornball ass scene, but it is pretty memorable. Yeah. This is like the memorable part of Johnny Mnemonic.
Mm-hmm.
Mnemonic.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Are you giving me attitude? Look, I will hack into your mainframe.
I'm not giving you any attitude. But that's not how the internet works. We don't go inside the internet. It's like some Tron shit.
Tell everyone how the internet works. Go on.
Hackers, that movie also does this kind of thing where, when I'm surfing the internet, I can't see, the internet cables moving around in, neon colors. That's not part of
the internet 2021.
That's how it opens.
Yeah,
the internet.
We laughed very hard. I also laughed when he was like, I could store up to 80 gigs.
You were like, only 80 gigs? He gave up his entire childhood to hold 80 gigs.
The one thing that, all these cyberpunk writers from the 80s most didn't understand was that we would be able to increase storage capacities by quite a bit.
They were like, 80 seems like a lot.
Yeah. 80 seems they did not envision advanced storing capacity.
The idea that he'd be putting 320 gigs somewhere was that's going to murder you. That's so much.
I've got an 8 terabyte tower plugged into my PC here. If I was walking around these people with an 8 terabyte, I'm holding the Ark of the Covenant to these people.
Can I say though?
So everyone's getting stalked by the girl from the Cocteau Twins, right? Every time they hack into something's mainframe.
Oh yeah, and she's the only one who has any info, so she's how we figure out that it's the cure.
She started this pharmaceutical company. She started it apparently. And then got forced out, disappeared.
She died.
She died.
Yeah, she's in the computer.
But her brain's in the mainframe.
Yeah, they copied her before she died.
Yeah.
And put her in, and then she died.
And is she in heaven? Is that an afterlife?
No, she's in the computer. She's not real.
Is that an afterlife?
She's an AI.
She's not a consciousness?
No, she's an AI. And if you think AI is conscious...
Now we're getting into some philosophy.
But I'm just saying it's it's not... Okay. It depends on what you think is your consciousness / soul / whatever.
Can she understand? Can she feel guilt? Can she feel fear? Can she? I
think she can because it's programmed.
Can she feel regret?
They downloaded her brain.
I think she shows regret.
Conscience, not conscious.
Consciousness.
No,
She's not conscious.
Consciousness means awake.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about a conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not a programming. She's essentially just a person without the organs.
She's not a person, though. They downloaded her memories into a computer.
But she's like an entity, a thinking entity.
I guess.
That's because, no one's going to build a robot that can take a shit, right? That's not what really defines you as something that's that separate from a bug.
But so she's also kind of is she in his brain with the data? Because she is the data.
She's all up in the internet in 2021.
Yeah, she can she's like Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah, she's everywhere. She Ghost in the Machine.
Did they actually say Ghost in the Machine at some point?
They did say that at some point.
They really did.
They had to. It's required in movies like this.
So yeah, so she's telling people stuff, but basically what happens is they go see Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins finally figures out what it is because they say he's supposed to go see Dr. Allgood or something.
Yeah.
Or Allcoming.
Allcome. We didn't make that up.
We didn't make that up.
Allcome.
As the doctor, so he was trying to figure out how to save himself. He's been talking to all these people, and some people are fucking him over, and some people are trying to help him. And he's like, "You need Dr. Allgood," and so
Allcome.
Sorry. all come. And so he finally, so Henry Rollins is like inspecting him and like doing these like backwards like treatments on him while he's treating the woman for the shakes, like trying to get her back to normal. He's looking at his head and he finally says, "Oh, I'm supposed to find this Dr. Allcome." And immediately Rollins is like, "I know where to take you. Let's go."
And he brings him to a room full of cum.
A room full of sick people.
Yeah.
Because it's a underground hospital.
And they all got the shakes.
And we find out that, well, see, they always were like, he was a doctor.
Shakes.
They all got the black shakes. He kind of is stopping and checking in on people as they're walking through. He puts on like a lab coat. They get all the way to the back and he finally explains that Allcome is not a person. It's a code for that place, because the idea is that if there's an emergency, they make an announcement that says, "Doctors, all come to whatever place." And so it's basically like a code for there's some real serious bad shit going down.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Then he's like, "I can cut this out of you." He tries to like download it.
Sort of. Like he tries to get the shit out of his brain multiple times and it doesn't work.
But then Dolph Lundgren,
after Johnny Mnemonic leaves.
Well, they run from Dolph Lundgren.
Right,
comes
the doctor
in.
tells
I can't say his
them to
name.
leave.
Lundgren. And yeah, Henry Rollins is like, "Get the fuck out of here. You got to get what's in your brain out of your brain because it's going to save millions of people." And he basically has already convinced Johnny that what's in his head is important and he might have to die to save the rest of the world who has this disease.
Yeah.
And so Johnny sort of like was fighting with him about that a little bit. And then that's when Dolph Lundgren came in. So he was like, "Get the fuck out of here." So they go back to Ice-T.
Dolph Lundgren kills Dr. Allcome.
He does. And they know. Like they actually later, like they get to Ice-T and he's like, "Where is he?" And she's like,
J-Bone.
J-Bone.
You know what's funny is like where he needed to be
was where he was at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I know. And so
he had to go
like,
all the way around and fail.
Well, because he basically is like, "You have to go see," and I can't remember the name, but Henry was like, "Take him to John," or whatever, right? And so they go to J-Bone and they're like, "He needs to see John." I don't remember the name.
Right.
And they go into this place and they're like, "Our person or the person, the John you're going to see is controlling everything." Like they have that they were worked for the military and they were like enhanced. Their brain was enhanced a bunch of times. So like they will know how to get this out of you. They can look into your brain and figure out the code to open up this cure.
Yeah.
And so he gets there and it's a dolphin.
Yeah, it's a dolphin.
Yeah.
Did that not look like the most miserable fucking existence?
Yeah.
Like that dolphin's just are they changing that water out?
It looked very cloudy.
They just pissing and shitting?
I'm going to assume that they're taking care of him because he's helping them and he seems to be smarter than all of them.
He's like, "I like these guys."
Well,
of all the people that are imprisoning me and making me hack things for them, these are the nicest ones.
It did seem as though he was maybe the boss.
Yeah,
Or they were deferential to him. Anyway.
So that the main Yakuza guy, it is revealed that like he's kind of doing this because he's mad. He knows what's in Johnny's head, but it's really like he wants to access to it because his daughter died of it. It makes it seem like his goals may be a little more virtuous, but he's betrayed by the other Yakuza, who's a little more westernized. And so then it seems like the Yakuza is also very interracial in this movie.
Yeah.
And there was another
part.
There
was a white woman with them.
Yeah, who had a rocket launcher and was mad that a car was on fire and just started.
Her friend got died.
Yeah, her friend got died. I did not catch that she was even in the Yakuza. I thought
she
maybe
was working with them.
I thought she just hit low tech that was just mad at that scenario.
No, she was with those guys because they basically, or maybe they weren't all Yakuza. They could have hired these people to be like their hired hands, but she showed up with that guy, and they were all like in like riot gear kind of outfits, and they had these like flamethrowers and stuff. And there was this weird thing happening where like the dudes who were supposed to be the lookouts for J-Bone's like whole operation were not doing a very good job of it, and somehow kept like knocking cars off a tower that were flaming, and then they killed her friend, and so she started shooting.
It was like they were like supposed to be comedic bit characters that
It was real dumb.
you never saw at any other point in the movie.
It was real dumb.
Yeah.
Real dumb. But they just needed a way for the whole place to catch on fire, I guess.
I guess.
I don't know. So anyway, then they're trying to break the code in Johnny's brain with the dolphin.
And they go into the net this time. They're in the net, so it's all like computer 1995.
He turns into
a cylindrical.
He looks like an eraser or a pencil, and his head is the eraser.
Yeah, but it's like his head is like a bent cylinder.
And he's like going through his own brain. He's got to like search in his head until he can find the code.
He's hacking into his own brain.
And then they've got him hooked up to the machine. So then they're like when they finally get into it, it projects out over all the televisions to all the world, the cure. And listen,
Not
the way
Robert
this
Smith.
thing looks.
Not Robert Smith.
That would have been better. The way the thing looks is like along one side, there's all these pictures of like cells and shit. And on the other side, it's just like code. And it's not even that long. It takes like 2 minutes. And it's like you see all these clips from people around the world being like, oh my God. Listen, I'm sure someone who is a scientist could like slow that down and read it and understand it.
Right.
But Joe off the street was looking at it like, we can cure it now.
Yeah,
and it's like, what?
It's like, man, you don't know what that says. Good.
Oh, and he kissed the bodyguard at some point.
Yeah, you had to back then. You had to like fuck. I'm surprised we didn't get
They
like.
didn't fuck.
I'm surprised we didn't get like a tits shot because back then
Yeah.
it was much more common. You notice we don't get random sex tit shots.
What was this
these days.
rated? Because there wasn't language in it really either. Even though Henry Rollins was in it, I don't remember him cussing.
I think he said something about like fucking Dolph Lundgren's sister or something. I bet it was like a PG-13 is my guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then at some point while they're trying to do this, Dolph Lundgren does show up again and he's like, Jesus is here to save. And they burn him to death.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, so we're at the end, right? Like the cure got out, whatever. And then Johnny, they think he might be dead, but he's okay. And he falls into the girl's arms. I should be wearing pressed shirts. And I should be staying in 5-star hotels. And I should be having... The very, very end where, they've made this whole thing about how Dolph... You look like you hate me right now.
What?
You look like you don't want to... You're staring at me like this.
Well, I'm sorry.
On the camera. At the very, very end, they've talked so much about Dolph Lundgren being like basically bionic or whatever because he's replaced his whole body. They
go on.
At the very end, he's been burnt alive. So then you see his like burnt up body and it starts like rising. And I was like, oh, holy shit. He's about to come back to life.
Like Chucky.
Burnt up Dolph Lundgren is about to come back to life. Jesus is risen. And then it backs out and they're just like picking him up to throw him in the garbage pile. And I laughed and I laughed.
They don't
and
throw
I laughed and I laughed.
They don't throw him in the garbage.
Where do they throw him?
They throw him in the water.
Oh.
Because that's where you
Whatever.
want to put those
I was
things.
laughing too hard.
That water's probably not polluted enough. So you definitely want to just throw charred cybernetic corpses in there.
There was also a point, I want to say like maybe 2/3 of the way through this where I just wanted it to be over. So I think by the time we got to the end, I was just like slap happy.
Yeah. And because it sucked. It was kind of funny, kind of entertaining to kind of observe a vision of a future of another time. Some that had points made, but at the same time were also extremely laughable, especially in the underestimating of how advanced storage would be in our time.
Yes.
And it's always fun to watch a movie about the future from another time and you're past the time in which it takes place.
Yeah.
You gotta love that.
Yeah.
At least. But let's rate this movie.
Ugh.
Will you give it 1 through 5? I'll give it 1 through 5
Okay.
combined, and I'll let you know how it tiers out. You go ahead.
This is hard.
Like Dr. Allcome was pretty hard.
Dr. Allcome was pretty hard. I think I'm gonna say 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
I think. It's hard.
I mean, you can't deny, you're right. Like, at a point, you're just like, is this going to be over? Like, the action wasn't even that great. There was a guy with, like, a laser whip, like, the main, like, one of the dudes.
I forgot about that.
And the laser whip kind of looked cool. But other than that, there wasn't even really any, like, cool action. You know? It really was kind of a drag.
Oh, there was that one. Yeah, well, it was all him related when he cut that man in half, like diagonal. That was pretty cool.
And the only thing you can really say that's positive about it is not like, oh, this is so cool. Mm-hmm. It's the shit that made you laugh. Like when he's built the computer and he's threatening people by gesturing his cyber, his eyewear, the acting. You're not laughing with this movie. You're laughing at this movie.
That's true. Gosh.
So you can't deny it. It just sucks. So it's a 1.5. I agree. I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Yeah.
I probably would go lower.
I might.
But
too.
It did make me laugh.
Yes. That's why. Like I'm not mad that we watched it.
No.
I won't be watching it again.
Never again.
But there are things that I think will be brought up forever for us, like, I need a computer.
Well, at 1.5 each.
3
total.
Does it get an F?
No, that's a D tier movie.
How low does it have to be for an F?
F is like 0 to 2.25.
Is that like we're just scratching our eyeballs out? I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
So honestly, Johnny Mnemonic from 1995 by Robert Longo. I misspelled Robert. I'm not going to fix it. It is the best D tier movie of all time so far.
Of all time so far.
I
love it.
Maybe I should up the F a little bit more. I think you're right. I still think this would be like a D minus.
Yeah.
But maybe I should adjust that F to catch a broader. Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a D movie. D makes sense.
It is a D minus.
Listen, I got to look at Henry Rollins for a little while.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Ice-T made me happy. Like, there were things in it that made me happy, but you're right. It wasn't for the right reasons. Like, the things I loved about it were not probably the things I was supposed to love.
Yeah, we were picking on it. It was fun, but not in a way that, like, it seemed to attempt to be. It wasn't fun in a story way. It wasn't fun in a character interactions way.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any charm whatsoever.
If it had been at least 30 minutes shorter, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know
how to fix it.
All right.
Okay, it's time. Did you take out the one we already did, or if I draw it, we just won't do it again?
Yeah, if you draw it.
I did draw it. A future in apathy.
Okay, we'll pick another one then.
Okay. I knew I was gonna. Spring and Awakening and Summer Sadness.
And Summer Sadness. All right. So, we have here 58 movies in this selection.
Okay.
So, let's do random number generator.
I love the sound of keyboard typing. That's maybe my only ASMR thing. I actually really love the sound of keyboard typing.
I don't mind it either.
Yeah.
I don't mind it either.
Everything else, though, makes me literally want to die.
All right. So 1 to 58. Here we go. I'm just adjusting that. So I'm going to generate 38. 38. We got it wrong.
I'm nervous.
All right. This one is an early film by a pretty popular director nowadays.
Okay.
And it is from 2010.
Okay.
And it is a movie from New Zealand.
Okay.
It is directed by Taika Waititi.
Okay.
It is called Boy. We're discussing the Taika Waititi movie, Boy.
Okay.
That is our next movie roulette selection. So that'll probably happen sometime within the next couple weeks.
All right.
So there you go. Johnny Mnemonic.
It sucked.
It sucked. There was some laughs, though, so, you know. I think if you just think about what the movie is, you know if you're the type of person to get something out of it.
Yeah. Ooh, can I say it?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Death to all traitors.
Death to all traitors.